Please comment on Pierre Poilievre's stance against perceived dishonest attacks on Israel.
I think Poilievre's done a pretty good job on this. He's called out what he's need to call out. The liberals are trying to play both sides, right? They're sending their anti-Semitic MPs to the different mosques, like, Selma Zaid, and they're sending them on propaganda tours. And then they're sending Marco Mendicino and Anthony Housefather into the Jewish community to sort of play both sides. And it's blown up in his face. Poilievre is, standing with Israel and our ally quite strongly and quite firmly. He's called out the hypocrisy of all these different organizations. He was quick to condemn the ridiculous proceedings at the ICJ. It is an international kangaroo court at this point. It's the Dreyfus Affair 2.0, as far as the Jewish community is concerned. And it is good to see that Poilievre is doing the right thing and standing with the Jewish community and standing with Israel, our ally, and rightfully calling out anti-Semitism where he sees it. Like, this is kind of what you want from a leader. No one's saying you need to ban this or that or free speech, blah, 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 blah. I mean, people can say what they want, but it is incumbent on our leaders to sort of point towards a moral center that aligns with our values. So Poilievre, I think, has done a good job on that. I was at the town hall for the Jewish community. Melissa Landsman, his deputy leader, was very well received. But when the liberals got up and tried to speak, it was pandemonium. Yara Sachs got heckled and booed off the stage, and her general presence created a ruckus. Mendicino was somewhat okay, but then got asked about his hypocrisy on the convoy, and that blew up. So I think Poilievre is doing the right thing. He doesn't need to spend all day, every day stumping for Israel. That's not what anyone's saying. But, when, it's pretty clear cut. When the Houthis start attacking global shipping and the West, you got to stand against them. Their slogan is "God is greatest," death to America, death to Israel, curse the Jews, victory to Islam. Those are the bad guys. Those are the bad guys. They openly teach about the Nazis in their textbooks. They do have Holocaust education in Yemen. But this is what the Nazis did, and this is why it was great, and this is why we're going to continue doing it. It is a country that had one Jew left, and they tortured him and kicked him out of the country. So there are no Jews left in Yemen. Mission accomplished for the Houthis there. All this anti-Israel stuff, as you're seeing, it does bleed into anti-Canadian sentiment. I've been covering these rallies. They all will say things like "no peace on stolen land," "all settlers must go." They're pretty clear. The anti-Israel crowd in Canada is pretty clear. What happened on October 7th, the rape and slaughter, was justified because Israelis are settlers on stolen land, and Canadians are also settlers on stolen land. So, connect A to B there and see what these people believe. It is good that Poilievre is standing against this, because if you have a prime minister like Trudeau who's waffling between and listen, Trudeau's given every part of the rhetoric he's given into. I mean, Trudeau's already said, he went in front of the world and admitted that Canada is a genocidal state. He said, "I'm committing a genocide right now. I'm copying to crimes against humanity." So he's enabling this. He's fanning the flames. He's pushing this sort of decolonization rhetoric, blah, blah, blah. And it has serious, serious consequences on our streets. And people are just beginning to see what a lot of us have been pointing to for years, is that all this, masochistic anti-Western rhetoric from our leaders, it's going to have consequences, and they're not going to be nice. And we're seeing that now. So it's good that Poilievre is standing against this, standing firmly, being pro-Canadian and pro-allies, because when you enable lunacy, you get more lunacy.
You said that consequences are not going to be nice. Can you please elaborate?
So yes, violence. For example, you saw, you had the pro-Palestinian, the pro-Hamas supporters, blocking bridges and overpasses. Okay, so there's attack on infrastructure. They got pretty hyped up on that, and then they burned down a grocery store. The IDF grocery store, which used to be owned by Jews, wasn't anymore, but as far as they're concerned, they saw it as a Jewish-owned business, so they burned it down. This is arson, and they vandalized. They Free Palestine. It was pretty clear this was an arson for Palestine. They did that, and you've already seen in France and America murders of Jews. So this will be the next step. I mean, we've seen pro-Hamas people. They found a car with an Israeli sticker in it. They smashed the windows and vandalized the car. Greif's, an institution in Toronto's Jewish community, a bagel shop, vandalized again, broke the window, and it's going to turn into attacks on people, Jews then. And then the logic of attacking the Zionist settler, whatever, is going to start to flip onto general Canadians, conservative Canadians who who strongly speak against the decolonization rhetoric. They're going to be attacked. You already see this in churches being burned down. We've had this for a couple of years now, where in order to decolonize Canada, people are just burning down churches. And I think you've seen from the October 7th onwards is the advocacy of decolonization. They enabled the churches burning down over the last few years. You would see that even if people are inside those churches, they would still be in favor of the people burning it down. And this is where it goes further and further and further. So we've seen that burning down churches is okay at midnight. Throwing firebombs at synagogues is okay. Shooting, synagogues and Jewish day schools, no consequences. So as people see very little consequences for this, you're going to see them get more and more rowdy. I mean, just look at the financial. I mean, they're blocking the streets. They go into the intersection of Yonge and Bloor in Toronto and block it off. Like the amount of, financial impact that puts on a city by having a major intersection just shut down so the Islamists can scream to the heavens. It goes there. And as you see, the violence from these people is escalating. As they see there is no pushback, immediate pushback. As people are screaming for genocide, and maybe 3 weeks later, after people scream at the police enough and shake them and force them to make one arrest, like, okay, fine, we'll arrest someone. But as long as people see that you can go on the streets and create chaos with impunity, and the cops don't come in and just say, this person's being violent, all right, off you go. And then people get deterred. But the more we enable this, the more we're going to get. So I would say, don't be surprised when vandalism of property turns into violence against individuals.
What should be an appropriate reaction in your opinion?
Well, a full enforcement of the laws on the books. I mean, if you want to have these hate speech laws, fine. I don't agree with them. But if you're going to have all these laws against hate speech and incitement, you have to enforce them. Either take away all the hate speech laws, say, free reign, everyone's allowed to say what they want. Okay, fine. But if you have laws against incitement to violence and genocide, and then people scream antifada, antifada, viva, viva, antifada, I mean, that does violate Canadian law as it is. Go in, enforce. There's more than enough cops to go there. And listen, if the cops are afraid to get pushed or shoved, well, then quit. Like, I've been covering these rallies. I've been assaulted there. I've been pushed. I've been threatened. I don't have the protection of a gun. I don't have a bulletproof vest. I don't get a shield. I don't get to punch anyone and arrest them if they touch me. I have to stand there and take it. So, I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I'm out there and I can, I don't mind getting yelled at or pushed a little bit. Like, not that bad, guys. You can do it. You have a bulletproof vest. You have, I've done it where there was like one of me or 6 of us against 1,000 of them. There's hundreds of cops there. You see someone violating the law, you have to arrest them. It's that simple. Like if there's a reason why these laws are on the books, but we've seen this is a 2-tier policing state where those who don't fit the narrative or the mainstream narrative get treated one way, and those who do follow into it or fall into whatever protected class get treated another way. And this is going to cause social discord, because the more people that see this, the less they're going to respect the laws of the country on both sides, right? You're going to see people just get frustrated and go, all right, if the laws don't apply to them, they shouldn't apply to me either. Like, I'm going full send. And there needs to be some law and order. Like, we can argue about the Emergencies Act and whether it's valid or not, but they did stop the convoy by sending officers in force. And no one in the convoy was advocating for violence. They were all advocating, for a change in Canadian laws. But they shut down the convoy with force. Okay, you can do the same thing to the Hamas people. You don't have to go in guns a-blazing, but they're violating the law. They advocate for genocide. Take them off the streets. They're blocking the roads. No, they're not. Push them off. They push back, throw them in shit. Like, it just will take a few arrests and you're there. But if they're not being actually stopped in the act of doing something, it's gonna get much, much worse.